Thanks very much, Tim. Great to be here and to give a bit of an overview. Talk about being at the right place at the right time. We're in Europe with energy. There's an energy crisis in Europe, and we've been there for about 20 years, and so we're ideally placed. If we can just move the slides ahead one, please. And here we go. The overview is that we've had 20 years of experience in northern Italy, and we've got a number of licenses that we've been able to develop. If we look at the near term, we're focusing on Selva Malvezzi. There's Podem Mare 1, which is a well which is about to come on stream and produce gas for us. We've signed a gas sales agreement with BP as a gas offtake. So that's very, very exciting. We own 63% of the Selva Malvezzi. We've got prospects listed on the AIM, and the London Stock Exchange owns the other 37%. And the 2P reserves are about 8.4 billion cubic feet that we've got there. And the 2C resource is about 8.9 billion cubic feet. Now, it's located about a kilometre from the national grid. Instead of getting all the gas from Italy, over the last 5 years or so, they've cut down from about 40% domestic production down to 8%. They've had a bloody nose. And now they're looking to reverse all that as quickly as they possibly can, and we're ideally placed. So we have been working on this very much over the last 12 months to get this onto production, and it's looking very good. It's a very low capital capex development. It's about 3.4 million euros in total, and our share is about 2.2 million to PVE. Another major asset is the offshore in the Adriatic, where most of the gas, the natural gas in Italy comes from, and that is 100% owned by us. And the 2P reserves there are about 37 billion cubic feet. So really quite exciting. It's very close to the existing infrastructure. Naomi Pandora is 12 kilometres away, and it can be piped into Ravenna very, very easily. Another site there is Torre de Moro, where we've got condensate, and that's our third focus. But let's go through each of those. We can change the slide. That'd be great. Just giving you a bit of a corporate snapshot. The share price has come back in the last month or so with lots of share prices in the in this sector. But it's a great. I think it's a great opportunity. It got up to about 10 cents a share, and has come back to about 7.5 at the moment, showing tremendous value with the current situation. The cash at bank at the 31st of December was about $2.5 million. We have been using some of that for the development, and we've got zero debt, which we had a terrible balance sheet over the last several years, and we've turned all that around. So it's been a bit of a hidden gem, as you say, and we're now in really good shape. I own about 23, nearly 24% of the company, and I'm an investor. I've been an investor in the company for about 15 years. I know it very well. I took over as chairman 12 months ago and was determined to just manage the money as an investor for investors. We brought on Joseph Constable from H&G, and they are a fund manager that's been invested with us. He's taken on a role as management. They've got a very large stake in the company. Sarah Edmondson, an American who speaks fluent Italian and very involved and living in Italy in Rome, and Katrina O'Leary, a lawyer from Melbourne here. So we're in really very, very good shape and really excited about the developments. If we can move to the next slide. What we've got next is our assets, just where they are located. The Selva Malvezzi is near Bodrio, not far from Bologna, in the Po Valley in northern Italy. We've got the Tedorico just offshore in the blue and green, you can see there. Torre de Moro down to the south. And of course, we've got a couple of other assets a little bit to the west there. So there's a pipeline of development and exploration opportunities that are going to be well and truly funded by this gas offtake that we're going to be getting from next month. So we're literally weeks away from being a producer, which is very exciting. Next slide, if we can. If we just look at the investment highlights, what we have is we're uniquely positioned in the attractively priced domestic Italian domestic gas market. We did all of our assessments for these assets at about 20 cents per standard cubic meter, and our best case was if we thought, wow, If the gas price could go up to 30 cents, that would be our best case. Our worst case was, wow, around about 10 cents. Currently, if you look at the Dutch TTF, which is a pretty good proxy, according to our competent persons report, which came out in July last year, their Dutch TTF is trading at about 40 cents. It was at 350 cents when it spiked up. But with the northern winter coming on, we think that that's going to be substantially higher than it currently is at the moment. So we're strategically well positioned. Will we be able to pump gas into the grid with this contract with BP? We're 1 kilometre from the grid. And so that's very, very exciting. We're production and tender ready. We've got everything done and just finalising everything in the next week or two and doing some testing. If we look at the near-term upside, we haven't announced to the market yet exactly what that is, but what we have announced is that we've got the potential to produce up to 150,000 standard cubic metres per day. We'll probably be taking it very easy and producing around about 80,000 to get started. And if you multiply that by the Dutch TTF, you get a pretty good proxy for the sorts of revenues that we're going to be producing. Thanks for the next slide, if we can. And what I've done since I took over as chairman, I've kept my salary at $30,000 per annum. All of our non-executive directors are getting paid $30,000 per annum, which is $120,000. We're keeping our costs really tight and under control. It becomes a rounding error for me if we deliver what we expect to deliver. And so I'm not interested in building an empire. I'm just interested in getting the job done. So we've had the production concession awarded. We've had the construction. We've tendered that, and we've been on time and below budget. And so we're ticking all the boxes, and we're only weeks away from producing gas, which is going to be very exciting. Once we've got that gas and that revenue, that really unlocks everything that we're looking to do going forward. So if you have a look at the next slide, what we've got is just an aerial view of where our well is at in the red line there, the Pot de Mer 1 well. It's 1 kilometre from the national grid, and it ties in at the SNAM connection point there. So that's very exciting. And once we've got that revenue coming through to us, as of May, we'll be getting our first checks from BP, and then we've got a number of options that we can look forward to. If we have a look at the next slide, what we have is first off, if you move to the second one, Selva Malvezzi, that's where we're looking at that 8.4 billion cubic meters of gas, and if we manage this asset very well, we can, certainly at least 6 years, but potentially up to 15 or 20 years as we bring that 3P online. Over the next 18 months, we've got a program that we've announced that we're going to be looking at drilling Selva North and South, level A South and level B North and then South. And so we're looking at as much as we've got in the Pot de Mer coming from these lookalike wells. They're 2 kilometres away. And we're looking to develop a drill pad and then drill down to that north and south. And then also drilling East Selva, very, very low cost for us to develop these. That's about 5 kilometres away, very close, adjacent to the grid, even closer than Pot de Mer. So we've got a number of options there before we move on and do some seismic at Ricardina and look at really getting those prospective resources converted to reserves, which will make us incredibly valuable. And if we look at the Puerto Rico, that's got 37 billion cubic feet. And so that's a really strong offshore development, which I'll talk a little bit more about in just a moment. But we can move on to the next slide. What we've got then is just a look at our concession. The Pot de Mer is in the middle of the slide there with the green around it. Just adjacent to that is the Selva North and South, which are lookalike wells. There's a pinch. These wells are in the Selva Malvezzi region, which has been drilled by E&I. This is the 25th well, and they've had phenomenal success here. And so we were able to take over this concession when Ian and I had to let go of it when Italy was joining the European Union back in the 90s. And we've been able to get access to these. So we can actually drill north and south and then the East Selva, and then we'll do some seismic and move on to the Ricardina, which is across to the left there. So that's really the development as we see moving forward. So if we look at the activity timeline, what we've got is, next slide please, is if we've got the construction completed in the next week or two. We then have the testing, and then we start producing from April. And so we've got PM1, Pro de Mer 1, first gas, that's going to be flowing through right the way through, as I said, somewhere between 6, 14, 15, 20, maybe 20 years, and producing tremendous revenues for us, which we will be in a position with not making losses, not having debt, and being able to fund all of the projects that we look at doing. In the next 18 months, we're going to do the GMG studies on Selva North and South and on East. And then as we're in the process of doing that over the next few months, we're then going to be applying for ministry approval. And as I mentioned, the Italians, the Germans, the English, there's a gas crisis. There's an energy crisis in Europe. They've focused on natural gas as being a clean energy source as a transition, and we're ideally positioned instead of coal or nuclear or any of these other things, or trying to ship it in, LNG, or bring it in via pipelines from Russia or whatever. They've really had a big turnaround. And so we think that we'll get those authorizations, particularly as we're a producer. That should come through quite quickly. Then we're going to look at the drilling next year. We hope to bring that forward, but at the moment we've scheduled it for the last quarter of next year. But as soon as we get those authorizations, we've got the cash and ready to go. We then got a bit of seismic to do in Ricardina, and then there's the Teodorico that we're looking to realise that asset. It's a very valuable asset just offshore. We're speaking to a major at the moment. It's too big for us to develop on our own, but we're looking at either a joint venture or a sale of that asset with the carried interest, joint venture with a carried interest or a sale. And also, in order to develop that, there's a couple of environmental groups have made a claim against the government for giving us environmental approval for that. And we are helping the government to get that out of the way. And also the plan of areas are saying that they're restricting certain areas, but we had our concession should be exempt because it was requested prior to this plan of areas. It was requested back in 2019, and then in 2020 we got the environmental approval. Also, they've said that any sites that are bigger than 5.3 BCF, and this one's nearly 37 BCF, then that is exempt as well. So that's why some of the majors are interested in it. So there's about a $67 million development there, and so we're very interested in looking at what we can do in that regard. So that's going to be going on contemporaneously as we develop Selva and some of these other lookalike wells that we're looking to drill in the next 12 to 18 months, which we should be fully funded for. So if we look at the final slide, just in our summary, we've got the Selva development, which is near completion, and first gas. It's going to be a very exciting time. I'm off to Italy next month to drink some prosecco, not champagne, prosecco, with the mayor of Bodria, the local town, and with the ministry, meeting with them, talking to a couple of the people that are talking. We're interested in talking about Teodorico. We've got a growth portfolio with development and exploration upside potential to support our future growth. Our partnership opportunities across these assets and our asset realisation at Teodorico is looking very, very strong. First gas sales, we've said in the first half of calendar 2023, we're in that now, so any week now, and that's going to give us some strong revenues and strong market conditions with the growing demand for domestic gas supply. We're in the right place at the right time, and we've got a terrific team on the ground where we've been below the radar. This has allowed us, this unique opportunity to get set, and with the share price down a little bit at the moment, it's I think a good opportunity. So we've got the gas sales agreement. Peloton in Sydney have done some research on us just recently, and they are quite bullish as well. So we're feeling pretty comfortable and pretty excited about our future. And the last 12 months has been a very busy time since I took over as chairman. We've revamped the board, we've revamped the management, and we're now going to be a gas producer that's got a very exciting future. So I'm happy to finish there, Tim.
Thanks, Kevin. We're almost out of time. We've got time for a couple of questions. Nice place to visit, a nice place to have some assets
Yes.
to fly over every now and again. Now, obviously, there's some strong macro tailwinds post the Ukrainian war. Can you kind of give us some colour on the political environment in an appetite in Italy?
Yeah.
When you're talking about ministry approvals, how have those conversations kind of changed over the last 12 or 18 months?
Sure. A number of our people we've had a former E&I, people have been in the business, they're Italians, and they work really well with the ministry. And they've been reporting back to us that there's been a huge shift after the Russians invaded Ukraine. The government is very, very strong on, they've talked about the fact that they want to increase their domestic production up to at least 25% from 8%. And they're doing everything in their power to get these things through. The current government, Meloni, is centre right and very positive. But even if you have, a centre left government, and in other parts of Europe, we're seeing that they've recognised that that they really see gas as a, they've actually, said that's a clean fuel. We've got 99.5% pure gas. We're taking some nitrogen from the atmosphere, so there's virtually zero emissions. It's 2.5 kilometres underground. It's no fracking or anything like that. Very, very easy way for the Italians to meet their needs for their industrial needs, as well as heating their homes. The next northern winter is going to be really telling time, and we'll be positioned very well. And so there's a lot of political pressure for them not to let them run out of gas or blackouts or brownouts and that type of thing. So they really haven't got any other alternatives.